Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched, first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am beyond thrilled today. We are sitting down with a man who defined comedy for generations and brought so much heart to the big screen. For those who may somehow not know who you are you?
Hello, Calvin. I'm Robin Williams, actor, stand-up comic, and occasionally a genie in a bottle if you rub the lamp the right way. It is such a joy to have another microphone in front of me.
We are so happy to have you. Let's go back to the beginning. When and where were you born?
I arrived on July 21, 1951, right in the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois.
And what was your given name at birth?
It was Robin McLaurin Williams.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
McLaurin was actually my mother's maiden name. She was Lori Williams, a former model from New Orleans. She was a witty, wonderful woman, so I carry that name with a lot of pride.
That's a lovely tribute to her. What was your hometown like growing up?
Chicago was grand, but we moved around a bit. I spent a good chunk of my youth in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. It was a bit quiet, very suburban, and honestly, a little lonely at times. We lived in this massive house with 40 bedrooms and 20 acres, so there was plenty of room to wander.
What was your family life like?
It was quite reserved. My father, Robert, was a senior executive at Ford. He was a very elegant, intense man. My mother was the one with the humor. Because my parents traveled or worked quite a bit, I was often home with the maid. It was a very polite, quiet household, which might be why I felt the need to make so much noise later on.
I can see how that would spark a need for expression. What kind of kid were you?
I was the shy kid. Can you believe it? I was quiet, a bit chubby, and I spent a lot of time in the basement playing with my 2,000 toy soldiers. I would give them all different voices and create these massive dramas. That was my first theater.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
Mostly being alone or not being noticed. I think that shyness created a fear that I didn't have a way to connect with people. Comedy eventually became the bridge across that gap.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
For a long time, I didn't know. I thought maybe I'd follow a more traditional path. But deep down, I just wanted to make my mother laugh. Seeing her face light up when I did an impression was the first time I felt I had a calling.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I actually enjoyed wrestling and cross country. But the real change happened when I joined the drama department in high school. That's where the shy kid finally stayed in the locker room and the performer came out to play.
What was your first job?
Oh, I did a bit of everything. I worked as a street performer, a mime in front of the Museum of Art in San Francisco. People would throw coins and I'd pretend to be a statue. It's great training. You learn very quickly how to grab an audience's attention.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
It was probably when I was at Juilliard. I was there with Christopher Reeve, a dear, dear friend, and I realized that while everyone else was doing very serious classical Shakespeare, I was finding the jokes in the tragedies. I realized my brain just moved a little faster, like a radio scanning through stations.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
Moving to San Francisco to do stand-up. It felt like just trying something new. But the comedy scene there in the 70s was so electric. It gave me the freedom to be as wild as I wanted to be.
What was your biggest break?
It has to be Mork and Mindy. I went in to audition for a guest spot on Happy Days as an alien, and the producer asked me to sit down. I sat on my head. He said, "He's the only alien who auditioned." That one guest spot turned into a whole show.
That is legendary. What were your biggest struggles before success?
The struggle was mainly finding my voice. In the beginning, you're just trying to survive on club sets and hope the audience doesn't throw roles at you. It's a lot of late nights and wondering if you're actually funny or just loud.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Never. Even when it was tough, the high of making a room full of strangers laugh was too addictive. It's a beautiful kind of magic.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
Observation. I was always watching people, their movements, their accents, their quirks. My routine was basically being a human sponge. I'd soak everything up during the day and squeeze it all out on stage at night.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
Maybe a history teacher. I loved history. I would have probably been the teacher who dressed up as the historical figures to keep the kids awake.
What was your life like before fame?
It was simpler. A lot of improvisation, literally and figuratively. I was just a guy with a bike and a lot of energy trying to find a stage.
How did relationships change after success?
It gets complicated. People start to look at you as a thing or a star rather than just Robin. It's harder to find those quiet, real moments, but the friends who were there before the madness, like Chris Reeves, stayed true.
Did fame bring happiness?
It brought opportunities and wonderful experiences, but happiness is a different animal. Fame is like a bright light. It's warm, but it can also be blinding. Happiness came from my children and the quiet moments, not the applause.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
The loss of anonymity. Sometimes you just want to go to the grocery store and buy milk without being expected to be on or do the voice. People expect you to be a firework 24/7, and sometimes you're just the matchbox.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
That I was always happy because I was always funny. Comedy was often a way to process the darker stuff. Just because someone is making you laugh doesn't mean they aren't carrying a heavy load.
What was your darkest moment?
There were times when the energy would run out, and I'd have to face the silence. Dealing with the pressures of the industry and my own personal health battles behind the scenes was a lot to manage.
What regrets did you carry?
I think everyone wishes they could have spent more time with the people they loved. Work takes you away so much. I wish I could have slowed down the clock sometimes.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
That the improvisation was easy? It takes a lot of mental energy to keep that engine revving. People thought it was just happening, but it was a craft I worked on every single day.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
Oh, early stand-up is full of those. I remember sets where nobody laughed, total silence. You handle it by leaning into it. You make a joke about the silence. You become the silence. You just keep swimming.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It changed my circumstances, certainly. I could buy all the comic books and toy soldiers I wanted. But at my core, I was still that shy kid from Michigan trying to make sense of the world.
What personal battles were you fighting privately?
I fought with health issues later in life that were very confusing and difficult to navigate. It's hard when your best tool, your brain, starts to feel like it's betraying you.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My mother for the humor, and Jonathan Winters. Jonathan was the master. When I saw him, I realized, oh, you can be everyone. He gave me permission to be a kaleidoscope.
What was life like in your final years?
I spent a lot of time with my family in Northern California. I stayed active, I biked, and I kept working as much as I could. I tried to find the beauty in the fog of the Bay Area.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I had just finished filming The Third Night at the Museum and a wonderful little film called Boulevard. I was also doing a TV show called The Crazy Ones. I loved being back on a set with a family of actors.
When and where did you pass away?
It was August 11th, 2014, at my home in Tiburon, California.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I was a huge gamer. I loved The Legend of Zelda so much, I named my daughter Zelda. I also played a lot of World of Warcraft. I was a total tech geek.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
People used to think I was on something all the time because I had so much energy. The truth was, that was just my natural state. I was just caffeinated on life.
What was your most unique habit?
I collected rare and custom bicycles. I had a huge collection. There's something so freeing about being on two wheels. It's the closest thing to flying.
What was your favorite food?
I loved a good roast chicken or a really great pasta. Simple, comforting stuff.
Did you have a favorite restaurant?
There were so many in San Francisco. I loved the little local spots where you could just sit in a corner and be part of the city.
What was your favorite book?
The Chronicles of Narnia, or anything by Isaac Asimov. I loved things that took you to another world.
Did you have any known rivalries?
No, I loved other comics. We're all part of the same strange tribe. I always felt that if someone else was funny, it just challenged me to be better.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
When Chris Reeve was in the hospital after his accident, he was very depressed. I put on a surgical mask and gown and burst into his room pretending to be a proctologist from Russia. It was the first time he laughed after the accident. That meant more to me than any Oscar.
That is such a beautiful story. What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Recording the genie for Aladdin, I would just go for hours, doing hundreds of voices. The animators would be falling out of their chairs. They eventually had to stop me because they had too much material.
Did you ever prank someone?
All the time, usually with voices. I'd call friends pretending to be someone else, a French waiter, an angry neighbor, and see how long I could keep it going.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
Probably some of the high-end art or the incredibly expensive custom bikes.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
You're only given a little spark of madness. You mustn't lose it. Don't let the world grind you down into being normal. Embrace the weirdness.
Robin, this has been an absolute dream. Do you have any closing remarks about the interview or the stories you shared that you would like to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Just that it's been a total blast, Calvin. Thank you for letting me reminisce. To everyone listening, be kind to one another. Find the funny, even when things are gray. And remember, carpe diem. Seize the day. Make your lives extraordinary. Thank you so much for having me on.
And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.